Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, we're back on the 65 Chevelle, the Malibu SS here, and today we gotta mask the car off to protect it because we need to shoot some primer on the firewall, and I have some etching primer I need to get on the frame as well. Got the owner over here the other day, worked him pretty hard for about a half a day. Got a lot of work done. He knocked out a lot of stuff, prep work for me underneath the engine compartment here, and then also a lot of small parts. So let's just jump in here and take a look at what we need to take care of today. All right, so John, the owner, he got in here. I had him use a 80 grit flapper wheel, a couple of them actually, wore one out completely, and got all the rusted area. The battery sits right over here, so the frame tube right there was kind of rusty and flaky. Got most of the old paint off, smoothed out a lot of the welds, took care of a lot of cleanup up in here, so it looks really good as far as the chassis goes, the frame. And then I went ahead and did some more work on the firewall. I was going to have him sand the firewall, but his fingers are starting to get worn out. So it's looking pretty good. I went ahead and floated a little bit farther over and just kind of, smoothed it out. It's not flat, but it's smooth. So all the little holes and dents and ripples and everything else have been taken out. And then the owner also did a lot of small parts, that we needed to get painted. And then he got the backside of the radiator support right here, which is going to get painted as well. So that's what we really need to work on. But before we can do that, we need to protect the car, because we start spraying paint, it's going to land on the car. So let's go around it real quick, and we'll talk about how to protect a car when you need to paint underneath the engine compartment. Okay, as you guys can see, I've got plastic draped over it. I still have some more plastic put on it, but before we put any plastic down or anything else, we have to consider, where we're spraying and where that spray vapor could get out. Now, if I was just to put plastic over here and then just start spraying underneath here, it's going to come out of this seam right here, and it's going to come out of the door jamb seam. And so just even a small amount of vapor is going to be trapped underneath the plastic and then settle down. And then you're just going to have to polish that off. So what we want to do is avoid that at all costs. So what I'll do is I'll take some tape, and I'm not going to tape this down real hard. This is an older paint job, so I'm not worried about it, being fresh or anything like that. But what you want to do is you just want to come along here lightly. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of run my finger down in the groove there. And I really don't care about the outer edges of the tape sticking. I just kind of want it to stick down, right in that groove, and then kind of seal that up. So if any vapor gets in there, it kind of just circles around in the door jamb or up underneath here. Because we will be spraying underneath the windshield wiper cowling, and then we will also be spraying the firewall. So eventually, this is just going to get some spot priming, and then we'll paint it black. But the firewall is going to get some primer. So. And then I'm not going to unmask and remask for the black. So we're going to get all this done, resand it, blow it all off, and then shoot the black. So, we want to minimize the amount of work we're going to be doing, but we do not want paint vapor to get up underneath the plastic or get on the paint or the glass or the moldings or anything. So if you go ahead and just seal up some seams like this, it's just insurance to make sure. Now, when we go out and spray the frame and everything else, paint's going to roll up underneath, so we're going to want to seal this plastic down to the car as tight as possible along the bottom. So let's go talk about that real quick. Okay, before I pull the plastic over the top, I'll go ahead and finish masking the seam all the way down here and a little bit down the bottom of the door here. There's weather strip in there, so I'm not too concerned about it, but I want to make sure I get this masked up a little bit just to protect myself. And once that's done, then I'll pull the plastic over the top. We'll do the fender separately. I'll pull the plastic over the top, and then I'll use the factory seam on the plastic, and I'll mask that solid all the way probably to the rear wheel. And I'll mask this up to the rocker real tight. Now, yesterday I went through with a damp cloth and I wiped all the surfaces I thought I might need to put tape to, and that way it's good and dry today, but it's nice and clean, so I know the tape will stick easily and I won't have to fight it. So I'll mask this up tight all along there, And then when I'm done, I'll go to the other side of the car and I'll pull that plastic until it's good and tight, just like this. And I'll pull it, pretty tight, because I want zero gap in between here, so any vapor that's floating around it can't go anywhere. So, and it's good insurance. Tape is cheap. I don't know why I have to keep learning this lesson, but over the years I've did a quickie, and I thought, oh, it's going to be fine. There's, it's not going to get on the car. And then, when I'm all done, I'm like, crap, now I got to clean the car up. I got to get overspray off of it. And it's just easier to use the tape, use the plastic, and spend some time up front instead of, kicking yourself later. So once I get this all masked up, I'll bring you back. I'll do a little time lapse on masking it up and get the plastic on it. And then we're going to get ready to shoot some primer. Okay, since we're painting underneath the windshield wiper cowl here, I did screw up the paint in a few spots, so it needs to be touched up anyways. We're going to go ahead and take care of these spots here. Now, I was originally just going to lay some black in here. Now, when we bought the car, when John bought the car, the windshield wiper cowl was up here, and it just looked like polish was down in here, compound, because there was some compound in around this thing that hadn't cleaned up very well. Well, that's actually chipped paint right there. It wasn't as bad. I ran my thumbnail over it and it kind of kept chipping away, and it was kind of chalky, so I got all that cleaned up. There's two spots. So originally I was just going to lay some black paint in there and call it good, just with a brush, and because it sits up there, you're not really going to see it. But since we're painting here, I'm going to go ahead and mask just to the lip right here, just a little bit, and then mask up with paper and tape. And then when I'm spraying, I'll just spray that and make sure that gets a good couple of coats right there to cover up that white. And then once the cowling's back on there, you won't even see the seam line. I'll have it just over the edge. This comes up a little high over there and over here. It's really close to the right where it rolls over. So I'll mask just to where it starts to roll over. You shouldn't be able to notice. I mean, it's an old paint job, so we're going to do what we can. And then when I'm painting all this, then I'll make sure I get that. We'll scuff this once it's all masked. I don't want to take a chance on trying to scuff it now and then scuffing the nice shiny paint here. So we'll mask it first, then scuff, and then we'll tack it off and shoot it with some black. So, but yeah, that's just how we're going to fix these couple little white spots showing through. Turns out this car was white originally. Okay, all done. A lot of work just to spray the frame and the firewall, but it's got to be done. Got everything sealed up pretty tight. Front up here is a little weird. I got to paint the radiator support as well. So we kind of had to protect the headlights, but leave the radiator support exposed. We'll be getting it on both sides. So it looks pretty good. Pretty happy with it. I'll put wheel covers over the rear wheels when it comes time to spray. I got to get everything blown off and tacked off, and I'm going to roll the car back a little bit. So what I want to do first is spray primer on the firewall, and then I'll spray etching primer on the bare steel on the frame here. And then we're going to let that dry overnight, and then we'll get it sanded and get it prepped ready for paint. Okay, I got my redneck mixing station up here. I found this can of speed prime in the back of my cabinet. Since we're on a budget on this car, I dug this primer out we'll use to prime the firewall. It's a one component, so it just air dries, so I think it's going to be fine just for the firewall. So it's been sitting in the cabinet a while, so I've got my little stir stick wire thing on the cordless drill just kind of clamped to my strainer stand here. So I'm going to let it run here for a while and make sure it's good and stirred up, and then we'll get some sprayed on the car. Okay, I got everything ready. I pushed the car back, I blew everything off, and I tacked everything. Now, I know you guys might think, it's just a firewall, you don't need to tack it. You want everything you do to adhere the best it can. So I blew it off. I found some old tack rags in there. They were brand new, but they were already the package was starting to fall apart. They weren't very high quality. So I tacked everything off really well. We're shooting the inner fender wells, so I tacked those off really well too. So everything's ready to go. I blew it all off. I rolled the car back. I've got it jacked up pretty high, excuse me. And so it's pretty much ready to go. The primer's all mixed up. That's an older can. It's a single component. You don't mix anything with it. And it is kind of thin, so it's not that heavy a build. So we're probably going to put 2 or 3 wet coats on there. Just let it flash in between. It's an older can, been in the cabinet, so if I don't use it up, it's going to go bad anyways. So I want that to look good. And I'll put 2 or 3 wet coats on just half of the inner fender wells, the half that's not underneath the fender. That's the only part that needs to look nice. Everything will get painted black, but we'll only, give the extra attention to the parts that show. Once all that's sprayed, then we'll spray some self-etching primer. I've got some SEM over there. It's just an aerosol can. It's black, so when I go to spray the black, it'll cover really easily. And we're going to go ahead and spray all the bare steel on the chassis on the frame here. So let's get the gun fired up and get some primer going. Looks pretty good already. A lot nicer. Yeah, this is going to look sweet when it's done. All right, let's get the fenders. Okay, so right here, this is where the battery sits right above this, so it was pretty rusted out. We hit it with the flapper wheel pretty good, and then I put some conversion paint on it yesterday, and I scuffed it up this morning really good with a Scotch-Brite pad. So I wanted to hit those rusty spots, try to stop that rust from moving anymore, and it looks like it did its job. So let's get some primer over the top of it. Okay, we got a good wet coat on everything. We're going to let that flash off 5 or 10 minutes. It's 70 degrees in the shop right now, so it should flash off pretty quick. As soon as I feel like it's set good enough, then we're going to go ahead and hit it again. It already looks really good. I sanded all that body filler with 240, I believe. So we hit it with an 80 grit DA, and then I went over it with some 240 just to flatten it out and smooth it out a little bit and prep it for the primer. So I want to get 3 coats on there to make sure no sand scratches come popping through once we spray that black on. So let's let it dry and then we'll hit it again. Okay, the primer's all sprayed, the gun's clean, we're good there. It says you can let it dry 25-30 minutes and then start sanding, but we're just going to let it sit overnight. We'll shoot another video on getting it prepped and getting some black on it. So I've got some self-etching primer for all the bare steel on the frame. You guys saw it, it's ground down to bare steel pretty much everywhere. So we're going to go ahead and spray this. It says it has a new fan pattern, so hopefully it sprays well. The thing about self-etching primers is they're super, super thin. It's like spraying solvent, basically. So you got to, do like 2 or 3 light coats according to the instructions, and otherwise it's going to run on you. I mean, it's just spraying. It's thinner than water, actually, it seems like. So you just got to take your time, get it on there. We're going to let it set up completely. It doesn't recommend spraying color right over the top of it, but we're going to let it set up all the way and then scuff it and then just spray black right over the top of it. It is just a frame after all. So let's jump in here and get this stuff sprayed on, and we're going to be about done for the day. All right, let's get this stuff on here. Well, that is a big pattern. All right, let's crawl underneath and got to get the outside of the frames and get underneath. Okay. That is one good coat. I'm going to let that flash off a little bit, and then we're going to hit it again, and probably just use the whole can up on it. It'll just go bad in the cabinet if I don't. So I'm going to get 2 or 3 good wet coats on it, and that'll be about it. I'll bring you back and we'll take a look at it. Okay, let's take a look at the fenders. They came out pretty nice. They're okay, not great. We didn't do a lot of prep work on them. So, this is kind of a quickie job, so it would have been nice to do a little bit more prep work, knock a few more dents out, do some body filling on them, but that's not this job. I always have to pull myself back from trying to do stuff like that. So in here it looks really good. I mean, just getting that etching primer on the frame made it look so much better. John got in here and he got in with that flapper wheel pretty good. He burned through 2 of them. and got everything off, got it smoothed out pretty good. There's some, you know, sand scratches and stuff in it, but it's just a chassis, it's just the frame. But the Firewall looks really good. Now once we get the black on, it's going to show some imperfections, but all in all, I think it looks really, really good. So got it all flattened out, smoothed out, all the extra holes filled. So it's going to be really nice when it's done. Okay guys, that about wraps up work for today. Got everything masked. That was a project in itself. And then everything sanded, tacked off and ready to go. And we got some etching primer on the frame, which is really nice. It looks really good just getting that etching primer on there. And then the Firewall and the inner fender wells got a couple of coats of primer. I put a little bit more on the body filler there on the Firewall. The inner fender wells only got 2 coats, but I think they're going to sand up and look pretty good. I know that Firewall is going to look really great once we get this thing all put back together. What you'll see next for this, we're going to actually I'm going to get this stuff sanded up and we're going to spray some black. So that'll be on another video. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. You guys hit that like button if you like what you see. It really helps promote the channel and I appreciate it. And mash that bell icon so you get notifications every time I release a new video. We'll see you on the next one.